Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Life's Playbook podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is season 5, episode 10. Season 5, episode 10, if you can believe it or not. Um, for those of you who are new to the show, I'm the host, Quinn Jackson. You guys are just getting me today. And I'm going to be talking some NBA basketball. We're going to be talking NBA today. I'm going to be giving you guys my top 5 point guards in the Eastern Conference. Having said that, if you guys have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I encourage you guys to do so as we are approaching 1K. You guys, it would be a huge milestone if the show was able to jump through the 1K hoop. So if you are a new fan or a long-time viewer who has not yet subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so and help get the show to 1K, because that would be a huge milestone. Also, make sure to download Prize Picks, the most elite sports fantasy app, and I'm also going to weigh in on the Chris Paul move to the Clippers. I'm going to weigh in on that real quick before I give you guys my top 5 point guards in the Eastern Conference. So this is only Eastern Conference. I'm going to be giving you guys my top 5 point guards. So, say more, say less. Let's get into today's episode. Starting with the Chris Paul move. I know I'm a little late on this, but we're going to talk about it anyway, because in all honesty, if this was 5-6 years ago, if this was 2018, 2019, 2017 even, I would say this moves the Clippers in a huge direction. I would say this moves the Clippers in arguably the best direction they've ever been in. But the reality of the situation is it's not that anymore. The reality of the situation is everybody on the Clippers are beyond their prime. They're old. Yes, they're all old. Uh, and it's a toss-up whether they can all stay healthy come the playoff stretch. Last year, we did see a majority of the Clippers core healthy in the playoffs, but again, James Harden, playoff blunders, is Kawhi. So if this was 2018, 2019, 2017, I would say this was a huge move, and this is a huge trio in James Harden, CP, Chris Paul, and Kawhi Leonard. But it's 2025 now. We have to acknowledge that they're out of their prime. They're old. So I don't think this move really moves the needle that much for the Clippers. It's an interesting team. I'll say that. It is an interesting team. A lot of veteran presence on that squad for sure, and hey, they made the second round. I believe, yes. No, they got bounced in the first round. Excuse me. They got bounced in the first round without CP, without Chris Paul. We'll see if maybe with Chris Paul they can get further in the playoffs. So, uh, in terms of how I would grade this trade, I would give this trade like a solid. Well, I guess it's not a trade; it's a signing, but I would give this signing a solid C. Solid C. Again, if this was decades ago, I'd give it an A plus. But excuse me, these guys are out of their prime. Uh, Chris Paul is returning home. If y'all don't remember his Clipper days, you missed out. You're missing out. But Chris Paul is returning back home. It's going to be interesting to see him play with Kawhi and Harden coming off the bench. He's consistent, I'll give you that. One of the greatest passes I've ever seen in my lifetime. Um, and he's not going to be bad. That's the point. The team's not going to be bad despite having old players. He's not going to be bad. But I don't think this moves the needle that much for the Clippers. I think they'll at the most they'll make the first round yet again. But Clippers fans, let me know in the comments down below how you feel about the Chris Paul signing. And maybe if I'm lowballing this trio and James Harden, Chris Paul, and Kawhi, hey, let me know in the comments down below what you think about that. Me personally, I think the Clippers, they're trying to create a team that's good enough to get past the first round. I still don't see it with the addition of Chris Paul, but hey, We'll see. We shall see. Having said that, I'm going to be giving you guys my top 5 point guards in the Eastern Conference, so Eastern Conference only. And this one's going to be interesting because there's been a lot of moving around. There's been a lot of moving around, and some guys are older and out of their prime as opposed to some of the younger cats. But I'm going to try my best to deliver you guys my top 5 point guards in the Eastern Conference. Again, Eastern Conference only. This isn't the Western Conference, and it's not the league in general. Just the Eastern Conference. As always, we're going to start from the bottom up. I'm going to start with number 5. So, at number 5 to kick off my top 5, and this is heading into the 2026 season. So these are the 5 best point guards in the Eastern Conference that I think heading into the 2026 season. So, having said that, at number 5, and you could argue this guy could be way higher. But the main reason he's at 5 is because the overall team just hasn't really been great. But at number 5, I got Tyrese Maxey at number 5. I have Tyrese Maxey at number 5, the 76ers point guard. He's a bucket getter. He's been a bucket getter since he's been drafted in the league. He's a young guy, so he's still got a lot of upside. The main reason I have him at 5 is because the team's overall production hasn't been where it's needed to be. Especially when you look at the young core and the guys that are on the team right now, you would think they would be playoff contenders every year. That hasn't been the case. But when it comes to Tyrese Maxey specifically, the guy is a bucket. He's I think he has an all-star. If not, he's definitely going to be an all-star in his career. The sky's the limits for this brother. Just we got to get that team production up. Got to get that team production up. Everybody's got to stay healthy. Everybody's got to give a full season. He's got a great supporting cast. Again, the Sixers have a lot going for him, and they have a lot of good players going for him. But the production doesn't match the talent that's on the team. But I think this season could be a turnaround, and if it is, Tyrese Maxey will definitely be higher on my list. But right now, I think he's top 5 in the East. I think he's a top 5 point guard in the East. Having said that, we got to move on, and this one you could say is controversial because we're probably not going to see a lot of the guy in the Eastern Conference play on his team. We're probably not going to see a lot of him, but I do have to give credit where it's due, and I'm going to go with LaMelo. I'm going to go with LaMelo Ball at my 4. I think we probably not going to see a lot of him because the dude's always hurt. But when he's on the court, he's a highlight reel. He's flashy. The team just hasn't. He's never really had a good team, and I'm not gonna slide him as bad as Maxey because the difference between Maxey and his situation is Maxey has talented guys on the team. LaMelo Ball hasn't really had talented guys on any of the teams that he's been on since entering the league. So I'm not gonna slight LaMelo as hard as I'm gonna slight Maxey, but still, production's got to look up. Again, it's kind of hard to put LaMelo any higher on the list because we barely get full seasons out of him. But again, when he's on the court, he's a bucket getter. He's an offensive demon. He's consistent. He's flashy. Not much I can really say on the brother other than the fact that he's got to give him a full season. And if he had a good team around him, he could be nasty. If he had a good team around him, he could be nasty. But I'm going to give him credit where credit's due. I think LaMelo Ball, at least in the East specifically, I think he is a top 5 point guard in the East. It's going to be interesting to see that Hornets team, but hey, give me LaMelo Ball at 4. That might be a little controversial. That might be very high for a guy like him, but again, this is the East. The East is nowhere as stacked as the West, so I think putting him at 4 is a safe bet. I think putting him at 4 is a safe bet, especially considering a lot of the powerhouses in the East have significantly dropped. Which brings me to my top 3. Who are the 3 guys that I think, in my opinion, are the 3 best point guards heading into the 2026 season in the Eastern Conference? Well, this might also be controversial because we haven't really seen him play with the trio specifically that he has been on, that he's now a part of. That trio being Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero. But we have seen him play in the West, and maybe I'm gassing this man up a little too much than he deserves. And the Magic did pay quite a fortune to get him, and they gave away quite a fortune to get him. But I'm going Desmond Bain. I think Desmond Bain, he's going to fit real nicely, not only for the Magic, but he's going to fit real nicely complementing Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner tremendously. Now, again, you could say top three already is too high because we haven't really seen him play in the East, and we haven't gotten a taste of how him and Franz are going to work. But we've seen his play in the West. We've seen how he's played on the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies were a great team with him. He brings a strong defensive presence, and although maybe you could argue the Magic gave up quite a lot for a guy like him, he does kind of fix the gap that they were in such desperate need in. They needed a true talented point guard, and I think while Desmond Bain isn't this show-stopping guy, he can definitely be that. Again, maybe I'm gassing him up. Hey, if you're a Magic fan or if you're just an NBA fan in general, let me know in the comments down below if having Desmond Bain at 3 is maybe gassing him up a little too much. But hey, the Magic were in desperate need of a point guard. They found their guy. I think he's going to work for the Magic. He's not going to be bad. He'll work out for the Magic, and hopefully he can complement Paulo and Franz's style of play to the point where hey, the Magic have a serious shot at not only being a top 5 Eastern Conference team, but maybe making it further than the first round. Now, granted, they did play the Celtics in the first round, but story for another day. But I think the big trio in Franz, Desmond Bain, and Paulo, I think it's a criminally underrated trio. And I think the Magic, with the acquiring of Desmond Bain, they could be a top 5 team in the East. Because you got to remember, the East is nowhere near as stacked as the West. Obviously, a lot of the powerhouses in the East have declined via injuries and other acquisitions and transactions that have gone down. So the East is I've said that, I'll say this again, and I've said this in many episodes prior when talking basketball. The East is up for grabs. So anybody could win the East. Anybody could win the East. Which brings me to my number 2 guy. My number 2 guy. And this one, I think number 2, specifically when we're talking Eastern Conference, I think number 2 for this guy is appropriate. Dude's a bucket getter, arguably one of the best offensive point guards in the league. Team has gotten better. Had they not acquired Kristaps Porzingis, I would say kind of the same thing I've said about Tyrese Maxey and LaMelo Ball, but his team objectively has gotten better. He's got a great young squad around him. Give me Trae Young to be at my number 2 spot. I think Trae Young is a top 2 point guard in the East. I think that's a safe spot for him considering it's the East. His team has objectively gotten better, so now he's got some help. He hasn't really had help in the past. Kind of just been him carrying that squad. I get they did lose some key guys, but it's Trae Young. Again, he's an offensive bucket. He's efficient. He's consistent. He shows up on a nightly basis. He's got a small injury history, but you don't have to worry too much about that. Again, there's not a lot I can say on this guy. Not a lot I can say on this guy other than the fact that, hey, I think with the team that he's got now, we're actually going to see the most of Trae Young. I think this is going to be a very good season for Trae Young. I think this could be a good season for the Hawks. Although you never know. The Hawks they've kind of been a middle of the pack Eastern Conference team for so long. We'll see if the addition of Kristaps Porzingis can change that and elevate them from a mid team to a average team. But I think the Hawks, with how wide open the East is, I think the Hawks have a legitimate shot to be at least top 5, if not top 10 in the East this year. I think they have a legitimate shot to be top 5 in the East, if not top 10. They're just not better than the team at number 1 / the point guard at number 1. And I do understand that Trae Young is quote-unquote the owner, is considered the owner of this team. But at my number 1 spot, I'm rocking with Jalen Brunson to be my number one guy. I think Jalen Brunson is everything that the other four guys I put on my list, but more proven, has a better team around him. And hey, he took him and Cat, although they are defensive liabilities, him and Cat took that Knicks team to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they could have honestly beaten the Pacers, but that's a story for another day. But the Knicks, they got a much more competent head coach who's actually going to utilize all the players to the best of their abilities. Pretty much kept the same squad. Everybody's coming back from, to my knowledge. Jalen Brunson, hey, he's the captain for a reason. He's the captain of that Knicks team. I think he's going to be a captain for years to come. The dude is a bucket getter. He's efficient, durable. Again, might be a defensive liability. No doubt that he won't fix that though. That's probably the only slight you could really put on this man. But other than that, hey, he's as long as him and Karl Anthony Towns ball out, the Knicks playoff window will be open. I'm not going to say championship window because I think there's a few more steps that the Knicks need to take, and I think that Brunson needs to take in order to become the next level type of guy, kind of like SGA took. I think Brunson still needs to take some of those steps that SGA took to be the next level caliber point guard. But hey, as long as Jalen Brunson balls out every season, the Knicks playoff window is always open. So, having said that, I know this has kind of been a relatively short episode, but let me know in the comments down below any sleeper picks that I may have left off. If maybe I should have done a top 10. But let me know in the comments down below what you think of my top 5 so far. Again, this is just my top 5. Let me know your top 5 down below, as well as any sleeper picks or maybe any honorable mentions that could have been mentioned before announcing my list. Again, let me know about the Chris Paul move. Is it a good move? Does it move the needle much more than I'm giving it credit for? Till next time, I will catch you guys for Season 5, Episode 11. Till then, peace out.